Welcome back, everybody. I'm Naha. This is 30 Days of Tarot. It's Monday today, and I've got something really special that I want to share with you. But before we do that, I've got a little bit of follow-up from yesterday's video. So as you know, yesterday I showed you guys Tarot of the Spirit, and that was this deck, which I showed you I had bought the original version. I'd got it used on eBay, and that it had been re-released. So in the time that I was editing the video and pulling the link on Amazon so that you guys could also order the new version, which I found was only $11. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, I'm just gonna put it in my cart and buy it. So I did. And then I went to work yesterday, and when I got home from work, look what was sitting on my front porch. Now, mind you, not only did I order it in the morning and get it by the evening, but yesterday was also a Sunday. So I have no idea. Amazon is just insane like that I could get that kind of instant gratification. So we're gonna go ahead really quickly and open this deck, and I just want to do a little side-by-side comparison. And then I also want to show you guys that transparent card. So we'll take a look at that real quick. Now I get the satisfaction of peeling off the shrink wrap, which I didn't get yesterday. Somebody had asked a question, Jen, I think, about the sizes of the cards. So first of all, let's go ahead and look at that. This is the old card, this is the new card, and the size is identical. And the backs are the same. That's something I wasn't sure about. The only difference is it looks like the image on the new card, the back is just slightly larger. But I would say, this is the old one. See, this is the larger one. This is the new. I would say that the colors actually look a little bit brighter. I mean, this purple to me looks a little bit brighter on the old one on the back. It's definitely darker. So let's take a look at the front of these. Now, one thing I noticed, the borders are the same, but the names, the font that is used here has changed. So the old font was like this, a little bit more bold, and then the new font we see here, it's not quite so solid. It's more of an illustrative type of font. I don't know that I would say that the colors are more vibrant, but you can see that the image is sharper. So it's a little bit more detailed. Can you see, for instance, in the face here and here, or in the vest, there's just slightly more sharpness to the image, but I don't think that the sharpness necessarily makes it better. Let's take a look at another one. I was trying to be careful so I didn't get them mixed up, but I guess I can just look at the font as an easy way to know which one is which. So again, I'll put this one first. This is the older version. And then this is the newer one. And I've got to say, like, color-wise, vibrancy-wise, I feel that they're the same. I don't think one is any less or more muted than the other, but you do see a slight difference in the detail. And so there's just a sharpness. I don't know how much it's picking up on camera, but you can definitely see a little bit more sharp detailing here in the newer version. But to be quite honest, I have to say, I think I prefer the old one better, because the softness, the colors just kind of blend together. You know, if you've ever been on a photo app, like on Instagram, and you've turned the sharpness up on things, that's what this looks like. You can see it here, but sharpness also sometimes makes things look more grainy. Do you know what I mean? It defines the outline more clearly. And yeah, I think that I actually like the look, the softer look, where the outline is a little less defined. I don't think that you lose anything by it. So I'm actually really surprised, because from what I'd read, or the reviews that I'd read, the new one was such an upgrade. Even the artist, when she saw the new version, apparently was so much happier with it. But I'm gonna have to go with the original and say that the softer, a little bit more blended look is feels better to me. So there you go. Well, I definitely would not let this stop you from getting the new version. I think that the difference is subtle and probably not something that you notice. I don't even remember how much I paid for this old version. I know you can still find it, but again, I did get it used. So if you wanted to get an unopened copy of the original, it probably would not be cheap, but you might be able to find it. But let's take a look at this. This is cool. Here's the transparent Tree of Life. So we can look at a card, and then we can place this over the top of it. Isn't that cool? And we can see how things line up now, and we can look at the different spheres. Well, it's very clear to see how it lines up with that card with the Two of Earth, or this is one I showed you yesterday, the Ten of Pentacles, and we can lay the tree. Oh, that's so cool. Let's take a look at one that's a little bit more figurative and see what we see. So, for instance, here's Mother Fire, Queen of Wands. And so we can lay that. Now we can see, this is so interesting. She has this lion down below her, right? And the tree is divided into the 3 triads. So we see the supernal triad, which is up above her head. And this is like your higher consciousness, those spheres right above you. And then down here, and this is the astral triad, which relates to your subconscious. And it's interesting because it's down here on the animal, almost implying more of like your animal instinctual nature. Some of them you do have to kind of adjust this card. You can't line it exactly up with the card. For instance, here we got to move it up just a little bit so that that gets centered. And then we put these 2 hexagrams in the spheres of Hokama and Binah, the 2nd and 3rd sphere of the tree. But we can really see now the proportions and where everything lies here. Wow, it's pretty cool. That's going to be fun to play with. So definitely, if you want the Translucent Tree of Life card, then you're going to have to get the new edition because that did not come with the purple box. So I'm going to go ahead and set these to the side now and show you what we're really here to look at today. And that is the Kazon Lar Tarot. Now, the reason why this is so special is because this is the deck that I read with at work, at House of Intuition, with clients, the deck that I have been using for years. I would say probably about 6 years I have been reading with this deck nonstop, day in and day out. Right now, my reading schedule is as short as it's ever been. I only actually do readings 2 days a week there, and then my 3rd day that I work on one-on-one clients is reserved for healings only, for middle pillar healings. But there was a time when I was doing readings 5 to 6 days a week, and I was on the schedule for anywhere from 8 to 10 hours. Now, mind you, that was back in the day where I wasn't as busy as I am now. If I go in for 6 hours, I know that I'm going to be booked out the entire time. So back when I was working many, many more days and many longer hours, I didn't have the great clientele base that I have now. So a lot of those hours were spent sitting around reading books, doing research, hanging out. So it's not like I was doing readings solid that time, but you can imagine, I've worked at House of Intuition going on for 9 years, how many readings I have done. And when I started there, I started doing readings with my Rider-Waite deck, and pretty soon I had seen this deck, this Kazon Lar deck online, and I brought actually 2 versions to show you guys because I have the one that I read with, and then in time, I ended up buying another one to kind of have as a backup because I felt like this one is also getting really worn. So take a look at these cards. This is the deck that I use. I mean, the sides of them, they're practically black, and you can see that the backs of them, the edges are completely worn and white, and they have all these little kind of worn areas. And I'll show you a comparison to a brand new deck. Now, the time that I got this, and this deck is hard to find. It is very rare, and so I keep my eyes peeled on eBay. Well, not really anymore. I don't need more than 2. But for a while, I was waiting to see if I could find one for around $50. You'll see this on Amazon for like $700. I mean, it's ridiculous. I saw one today on eBay for $150, and that's still a lot. I got both of mine for somewhere around like $50, but I had to wait for a long time to be able to find that. So here's the brand new one. And it's just so funny because I got this one thinking, oh, my deck's starting to look all worn. I should get a new one. Look at the difference. You can just see how completely worn in these are. And these just feel all silky and smooth. But I got the feeling that, you know what, there was something a little bit they were too clean. Like I liked, after seeing the difference, how they looked when they were worn in. And I'll go ahead and show you the other side as well so you can get the idea how the edges look now that they're all worn. And so you can kind of see they have these gold borders where the gold has actually become pretty dull on mine, but they look all white. And then this is the way they originally looked. So definitely you can see that the gold borders look much more beautiful when they're brand new. So I'll take a look and show you. And you can see how much more beautiful the gold borders looked when they were brand new. Again, mine almost look kind of black there. And it actually looks to me like this might be a different printing, because not just from the sense that this is a worn deck, but the colors actually do look a lot brighter on here. And I don't think that's because this is used. I think they're actually printed brighter, but you can see that gold edging. I mean, these did look like that at one time. So I don't know, maybe they were this bright too at one time. Maybe I need to start breaking in this new deck. I'm not sure, but I'm so used to using this old, worn, dirty old deck. So I don't know. At least I have this backup when the time comes, or when these just start absolutely falling apart. And this is the deck that I told you guys that I left it in my altar for a year before I started using it. There's so much going on this deck, and I'm actually going to show you the new version so that you can see some of the details a little bit better. So first of all, each of the suits corresponds to a different culture. This is the most multicultural deck I've ever seen. And not only does it have all these different cultures, it also has all these different religions, all these different symbolical systems. So there's aspects of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, there's Kabbalah, there's astrology. It's really all in here. And each of the suits are represented by different cultures as well. So the suit of coins, which this is the ace, is represented by this sort of Persian and Iranian culture, and you see figures from there. But you will also notice, for instance, that we have the names of the Sephirot up at the top of the Tree of Life. So this is the third one, and it has Binah up at the top. And then we also have some playing cards here. We have the diamond, 3 of diamonds. There's a whole little encoding of astrological aspects here. Some of these things they're not even symbols I recognize. And then it has Libra, Gemini, Mercury, and Taurus. And this is like a secret code. I mean, there's so much in here, but aren't these cool? I love this one, the 8 of Pentacles. So, you know, normally on the Rider-Waite deck, you see the guy and he's like making pentacles, making shields. Here we have the rug maker, and we can still have the pentacles going up the sides. Now, a lot of times these cards are not reminiscent at all to the Rider-Waite, at least with the minors, but this is one that just happens to have a little bit of a similarity. I love this 5 of Pentacles. So a lot of the coins are taken from the Arabian fairy tales. So we have Sinbad. On the 6, we had Aladdin with his lamp. But you can see here, he's trying to catch the golden fish, but he's not even on the raft. He's like got this person who's not helping him out. Well, it's very much the 5 of coins when you're trying to go after money and it's just getting further and further away from you. And the suit of wands is Indian, and it's Hindu, and it's also Buddhist. So here we have Nataraja, the dancing Shiva, the cosmic dancer who dances among the stars, for the Ace of Wands. But then when we move forward to the 6 of Wands, we have the Buddha. This is one of my favorite cards in the deck, because the 6 of Wands is all about being able to have that sense of self restored, so that you have your self-worth and your value, and you're leveling up in life. You're getting to the next level, and you know that from an inner kind of place. So I love that. We see the representation of the solar plexus. So there's some self-realization going on there. And then the swords are all ancient Egyptian. So look, we have Thoth as the ace. We have the weighing of the heart here in the 9 of swords. We see there's the scales, and there's Osiris and Thoth, Ammit. Here's Isis as the Queen of Swords. Absolutely love her. You guys know Queen of Swords is one of my significators, right? So she's just like putting her hand up like, no, you listen. And then for the cups, we have these Hungarian figures, and they're like this Eastern European folk art. And they're popular Hungarian figures. This is Ferenc Joseph. Vitez Janos, that's the 5 of Cups. So somehow these are all working together. I mean, it's pretty crazy. We have all these different cultures, but they sit next to each other, and it just kind of works. And these cards are just like a beautiful tapestry. I can't tell you how many times when I'm doing readings and people see these cards for the first time and they just go, oh wow, these cards are so beautiful. Or even for the 10th time they've come to get a reading, they say like, oh, I always love seeing these cards. You know, they kind of remember them. So I'm going to show you guys the majors as we talk a little bit more about the artist that created these. So this deck was created by a man named Dr. Emil Aminola Kazon Lar. And I read on someone's review that in the Turkish language, Kazon Lar means many cauldrons, many pots which he's drawing from. Here's the High Priestess. And he was born on the territory of ancient Persia, today Iran's capital Tehran, on the 17th of September, 1939. I love this Empress. Isn't she just so beautiful there in her garden? So magical. And at the age of 23, he moved to his mother's home country, Hungary. So you can see he came from these two different cultures, one Christian and one Islamic. And in Iran, he had founded a puppet theater. Now this is the card that normally you would see as the Hierophant. And this is the only card that makes a departure in the majors and changes the name. And in this card, you actually see a depiction of Muhammad with his face veiled, riding this cool animal, and this card is now called the Prophet. And you see all of the angels, and I really see this as the card of the guides. And even down here, see these two tiny little figures? Now I'm sure that they have some kind of a religious significance, but I see this as the ancestors. They look to me like a little grandmother and grandfather. So that's how I read those whenever this card comes up. It's just beautiful. And you can see all of the symbolism woven into here. You can see the letter Hey there, the fifth letter of the alphabet. It's just otherworldly. In Budapest, he graduated the ELTE's Academy, specializing in Spanish and French languages, and gained his doctorate in philosophy, and worked at the Faculty of the Arts for 11 years as a Persian language lecturer. He's worked in the Hungarian Parliament as a French, Spanish, English, and Persian interpreter, was a journalist, and worked for the Iranian embassy. So you can see he's just a very multicultural person himself. There's the Hermit, there's the Wheel of Fortune. I wanted to show you guys again the Lovers because this is so interesting. It's the more classic idea with the Lovers where we see one man and two women on either side. And so he's got sort of the safe choice over here. And then look at this one. Now she's very saucy, very va-va-voom. And she also has a demon standing right behind her. Almost like she's a puppet, which is interesting since he founded a puppet theater. Since 1990, he's been involved in the cultivation and teaching of esoteric painting and the tarot. It took him 10 years to paint this deck, and he completed it in 1994. And then the deck came out in 1996. There's Strength. So he has Strength and Justice switch, the Hanged Man. And here's the Death card. Talk about a beautiful death. It doesn't have the name. So in the Marseille style, there's no name on this card. But you can see there's a couple here and just the expression of transformation and this old person kind of going off to the other world. I just think it's so beautiful. And Emil calls this work ecumenical, which means universal. And he comments on how the ecumenical attitude allows different religions to lead equally to God, and points out that the tarot is an ecumenical tradition which contains holy symbols of God found in similar forms in most major religions. This is another one of my favorite cards, the Star. It's like a little world, isn't it? Let's look at the one in my deck that's all worn in. You guys, I'm really torn now. Should I start breaking in this new deck, or should I just hang on to it and keep using my old sticky, grimy deck? You know, normally when I ask people that question, they say, oh, like, just stick with the one that you have. But I don't know. Okay, so here's the Star and the deck that I've been using. Still looks pretty gorgeous. And then here is the nice, clean copy. It's kind of funny that we looked at that Tarot of the Spirit new and old version earlier, because I feel like this is sort of the same thing. It's like we're getting the very sharp, crisp version and this clean version here, and then we're getting the sort of a little bit subdued, worn version. But there's something that I don't think quite gets conveyed through the video, and that is just the fact of the energy. There's an energy that these cards have that the other deck doesn't have yet, because they just haven't been quite so loved. So I don't think I finished my thought that I shared with you guys earlier, that I had left this deck in my altar for a year. So first of all, it took me probably about a year to finally get a deck, from the time I originally saw it to when I found one and bought it. And then even then, I remember it had shipped from somewhere like Argentina, and it just took forever to get here. So it finally got here, and I did open it. I didn't leave it in the mailing envelope, but I didn't read with it. I felt like I really needed to just let it acclimate to my energy, kind of let my guides handle it and speak with it. So I placed it on my big altar back here, and I just let it sit there. I just let it marinate, let it simmer. Another card that I love from this deck is the Moon. And you can see they have these really beautiful borders, and when you put them next to each other, even though they change, this one, the sun is very Chinese, but they don't clash with each other. The Judgment is a pretty typical Christian depiction of judgment. And then the beautiful, beautiful World, which I absolutely love. And then this deck places the Fool as the 22nd card, and I love the Fool as well. And there are a few things that you see very commonly as motifs in this deck. For instance, because we have all of those Egyptian cards, and the borders of the cards also stand out by the suits. So all of the Egyptian swords are dark blue, and then the wands have this turquoise blue border, and the cups have this reddish border, and the pentacles have a brown border. But you'll see in the swords that the pyramid is present in the background of a lot of these. So when you're doing a spread, when you're doing a reading, you'll oftentimes be able to trace that from card to card and draw some interesting connections. And then it is also kind of mirrored in other suits. Like, for instance, here's the Two of Wands, where we have Krishna, and we see the mountains in the background, which give kind of a similar depiction of the pyramids. I love this too. This is Nuit, the goddess of the night sky, serving as a veil through which the Six of Swords is traveling, moving forward under the cover of darkness. So that's the goddess of the night sky there. I also love this Seven of Swords. So if you remember in the classic Rider-Waite-Smith version, you've got the guy with the sword slung over his shoulder, and it's kind of, he's sneaking around, and it is kind of a card of, you know, there's more than meets the eye. People are sort of like up to things behind the scenes, maybe a little bit of deception. Well, look how that idea is expressed in this card. We see this pyramid, but it's like the tip of the iceberg. This is the part of the pyramid that is above ground, and this implies what is shown, what is seen, what somebody is revealing. But look at the reality of it. There's so much more that lies under the surface, and the structure of the pyramid is actually so much greater than just the part that we perceive there. I've always thought that was such a cool interpretation. This is very alchemical too, with the red and the white sun on either side there. So if you guys get a chance, if you ever find yourself a Kazon Lar tarot, I know a lot of people have looked for it. It isn't easy to find. If money is no object, like I said, you can get a $150 one on eBay right now. There's also these two little significator cards. I actually don't use these in my deck, but we see this kind of Eastern European lady and then this Middle Eastern man. You could shuffle those into the deck if you wanted to. It is an 80 card deck. But if you ever come get a reading with me, or even if you call and get a reading with me by phone, there's a pretty good chance that this is the actual deck that I'm going to be reading with. So I hope that this has been interesting for you guys, that you've enjoyed taking a look at my very special personal tarot, the Kazon Lar, which I love so much. And no matter how much I try to trade it out, get new decks, read with different decks, try something new. As I shared with you, sometimes, you know, I brought that Tarot of Prague in, and I did some readings with that. And I bring other decks in from time to time, but I always end up going back to this one. It's just so diverse. The storytelling on it is so good that I just can't seem to let it go. So if you guys were wondering what my absolutely favorite tarot is, this is it. Look at the Ace of Cups. I absolutely love her, little babushka. All right, you guys, thanks so much for being here, for watching, for commenting, for liking, for sharing. And if you guys want to do me a really, really big favor, share this channel with somebody today. Find somebody that you think would love these videos and turn them onto it so that we can grow this channel a little bit more. We actually just crossed over 1,500 subscribers. That's a new little milestone, which is awesome. And that's all thanks to you guys. So again, I appreciate you guys so much, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.